Yo, what is up guys? Anthony here, back with another Destiny Child video, and in today's Destiny Child video everyone, it's going to be sort of a beginner guide. As you can all see by the title and thumbnail, we're going to be heading into the narrative dungeon and overviewing what a narrative dungeon is for all of you beginner players. So of course, today is a beginner's guide for of course those newbie players that are just arriving to Destiny Child Global or who are going to be arriving in the future and would like to watch a video on what a narrative dungeon is and of course how to clear a narrative dungeon. So of course we do currently have a narrative dungeon going on right now. As you can see, of course we do have the Blind for Love narrative, and of course you can access the narrative on your home screen from the icon here of Euros just under the Moa Paradise. And of course you can also access the narrative dungeon event in the events dungeon, which is featured on the top of the list. Now of course we do have 9 days and 21 hours remaining of this event, but if you are watching in the future, this video should help a ton for any narrative dungeon, to be honest. So if we click into the events here, you can see we do have the Blind for Love pop up here at the top, and we do have a ton of icons, etc. But before we do head into any of these stages and such, let's check out the dungeon help here on the bottom right hand portion of the screen so we can read what a narrative dungeon is. So of course we do have 0 here, narrative dungeon. Narrative dungeons are event dungeons that are unlocked for a limited time. This is where you can enjoy a story with a new child. So of course you can go and throughout playing the story stages, you will learn a ton about Euros, etc., her story. So the narrative dungeon does feature a specific character and does introduce you to their story and more. So of course is why Euros is the center focus of this narrative dungeon and why we do receive a copy of her for free on the 7th grid, but of course we'll talk about grids later on. As for number 1 here, we do have dungeon progress. Narrative dungeons have 2 difficulty levels. Hard dungeons will be unlocked after completing every normal dungeon, and each dungeon requires stamina to enter. So of course stamina is a heavy resource that narrative dungeons do rely on, so you would want to have a ton of stamina saved up in advance for narrative dungeons and of course future narrative dungeons. As for number 2 here, we do have joining up with a party child. In narrative dungeons, a special child will be added to your team as a partner team leader during special stages. During these stages, the partner automatically replaces an existing team member, the one on the leftmost slot. So of course the partner child will be the units that is featured for the events. So of course Euros is featured in our current narrative dungeon, and she will take up the first slot on the leftmost position of your team comp for the specific stage she does enter on. Now of course this does not mean all stages, but a certain number. I do believe on our current narrative dungeon story she does take up 2 team slots for the bottom 2 stages, I believe 7 and 8. As for number 3 here, booster childs. Booster childs are assigned to each narrative dungeon. If you add this child to your team, you will get more rewards upon clearing the dungeon. Please note that partners do not count as booster childs. So of course the Euros that does pop up into your team for the specific stages does not boost your rewards. It will have to be a specific unit you do have obtained already. We also do have here booster childs can provide greater boost by uncapping them. For here, fortune bonus. Some stages have a chance for a special rare boss to appear. If you can defeat this boss, you will receive a single special reward as a fortune bonus. As for number 5 here, we do have narrative collection. Clearing narrative dungeons will earn you event items. These items can be used in the narrative collection to receive random rewards. Number 6 here, collection rewards. Obtain every random reward in a narrative collection to obtain a collection reward. Once you obtain a collection reward, the random rewards will be refreshed. If you have already obtained the main reward, you can obtain a collection reward whenever you would like to. So of course there are the narrative dungeon basics in a nutshell. So of course let's show you guys more in action of the narrative dungeon. So we are back here on the main dungeon list of the narrative event. Of course we do have the hard difficulty on the right hand side, you can see here, and you can scroll down. As you can see, we do have 8 stages on hard difficulty and normal difficulty. So of course you will have to progress all the way down throughout stage 8 for the normal difficulty in order to unlock the hard mode as well. and then once you get down to the bottom of the hard mode, you will be completed with each stage. Now upon clearing each stage once, for the first time clear, you will be granted a first time clear bonus of narrative collection rewards. So you will be rewarded with 3,000 of the narrative collection currency for the first clears of each stage on normal and hard difficulties. Next up here, we do have the event mission tabs. Now of course, event missions do refresh once per reset, so of course these missions will have to be farmed daily so you can make hefty progress throughout the narrative collection. All you have to do for the narrative dungeon missions is to play the dungeon 8 times. So you can rerun any of the stages 8 times and you will be rewarded with a certain amount of narrative collection currency. So you can see, upon clearing all 8 stages, you will be tossed 4,000 of the event's currency. In this case, we do have the Sweet Love's Gift, and we also do have 4,000 for clearing a narrative dungeon 1 time, 2 times, and 4 times. So a total of 16,000 narrative dungeon currency for clearing a stage 8 times once per reset. As for the narrative collection here, you can see the Euros narrative collection rewards listed on the top portion of the screen. As you can see my cursor, we are on the 4th grid, but of course you will be starting on the 1st grid. So upon clearing the 1st grid's main reward, which of course is the blood gem. So upon receiving the blood gem, you will be eligible to advance onto the next grid. So you can get lucky and obtain the blood gem on your first roll, or you can be unlucky and have to go throughout collecting everything on the grid and obtaining the blood gem last. So it's all about RNG with the narrative collection and hoping you do manage to obtain this blood gem reward fairly quickly so you can advance onto the next grid. So let's say I do obtain the blood gem for the 4th collection grid here. I will be eligible to advance onto the 5th grid. So I can totally ignore the rest of these items if I do manage to pull the blood gem in my next roll. You do not have to complete the entire reward list to be eligible to advance. All you have to do is obtain the main reward, which of course will be the blood gem featured here on the top left hand row. So upon clearing all 7 grids, you will be granted the narrative unit. So as you can see on the 7th grid, upon clearing the 7th grid's main reward, you will be granted a cute Euros. So of course a free 5-star unit, and you will definitely want to farm your narrative collection events so you can obtain this unit, even though she may not be the best unit, or maybe a future unit is not the best. You would still want to obtain the specific units so you can maybe use them as House of Reincarnation fodder, etc. So you may ask, after clearing the 8th grid and its main reward, what does come after? Now honestly, after clearing the main reward of the 8th grid, you will be rewarded with the 3 to 5 star 10 times summon ticket, and it will repeat from 9th and onwards. So from 9th and onwards, you will be rewarded with a 3 to 5 star 10 times summon ticket for each main reward cleared. So for the most part, you will just want to prioritize grids 1 through 7, and upon clearing all of those, you should be done with the narrative dungeon, unless you do have a ton of stamina and want to keep going. Of course, narrative collections could be a nice way to farm up some blood gems if you do have a ton of stamina from, let's say, stamina hoarding, as of course Destiny Child does tend to toss stamina like nothing. Back to the Blind for Love dungeon list, let's overview boost childs a little bit more. As for the events, we do have 2 specific boost childs for the Blind for Love event. Both are brand new, so they do have a 60% base boost. Now if the child happened not to be new, they would have a lower boost rate, but thankfully Euros and Ymir are both new units, so these will have a 60% boost at base uncap, so of course +0, and upon scaling to +6, they will have a 120% boost if you did manage to pull some uncaps for them. And you can feel free to check out the units here. As you can see, Cute Euros, the water type healer, the units you do obtain throughout the narrative collection clears, and we also do have Ymir, a new summonable unit you can obtain throughout, of course, premium summons. So either of these units can be obtained throughout summons, and of course future narrative collection units can be obtained throughout summons as well. So pretty much that is a narrative dungeon in a nutshell. A pretty easy event to understand, but of course I did want to go over all of the basics for the event, as of course some newer players may be daunted by the fact of a narrative collection and be wondering, how do I clear the event? It's been a tough time. Let's say you're struggling on some stages. A nice way to clear the event with efficiency is to honestly just farm the daily events missions. Let's say you are struggling on the hard side of the narrative dungeon list, and let's say you can only reach the stage 1 here of the hard mode. You can just farm the events missions daily and of course obtain the 16,000 daily currency and roll on the narrative collection daily, and hope you do have some good RNG and can complete the event. For the most part, the narrative daily missions do grant you enough of the collection currency to be able to reach the 7th grid and clear the event. And honestly, for the most part, I do only play 8 times a day in the narrative dungeon, so I can obtain this daily reward, and then I do my rolls and log off of the narrative dungeon until reset. And then let's say I do reach the final day and I'm stuck on the 6th grid for whatever reason, let's say RNG is bad, then I will constantly just run the narrative collection until I do finish the event. So if you are a newer player and are struggling with obtaining event currency heavily, then maybe just rely on the event mission dailies, as they should be just enough to finish the event. And on the final day, if you do need some extra currency, then do just run the specific stage you can reach up to. Like I said, for example, stage 1, just continue to repeat it and obtain the event currency on the final day. Now you may be wondering how these stages do work. Now for example, let's do test out a stage here. For example, in this case, we'll test out stage 1, the hard difficulty, and I'll show you guys how you do obtain the event currency. So we do have my team here with the 2 new boost childs. At level 50, honestly, it's more than enough, as of course these units are at a 60% boost. So let's do click start. As you can see, it does cost 30 stamina per run, so you will want to have the stamina available, as of course it is a very stamina heavy event. So I will turn off the auto mode for this specific run, as of course we do have one phase for the hard stage number 1 here, and you see my team can clear it fairly quickly, as of course I do have some stronger characters on my team, as of course they are ignited and such. But of course, let's say you are a newer player and you can manage to get throughout this stage, you will just proceed through the battle like this. You can do it automatically, you don't have to play manually like I just did. And upon clearing, you will be rewarded with the victory screen here, and after clicking the victory screen, you will have this special reward pop up here. So we do have 3 cards we can flip since all of our units did survive. Now if one of my units were to have died and I did not have a friend units available, you would have only been rewarded with a 2-star clear. So if you had a 2-star clear, you would only have 2 card flips, 1-star clear, 1 card flip. So do keep in mind, if you can consistently clear each stage with a 3-star reward rating, so you can take advantage of having 3 flips. If you are constantly failing a certain hard stage and such, then maybe it's not best to continuously repeat the stage and waste stamina overall, since you are only receiving 2 or lesser card flips per victory. So as you can see here, we do have the question mark. Now you can obtain a ton of rewards throughout your card flips. Let's say you do get lucky, you can actually obtain a 5-star summoning ticket. As you can see, we do have the percentage rates here on the right hand side, and of course the specific reward. As you can see, a 3 to 5-star summon ticket is a 0.20%, a 5-star summon ticket is a 0.01%. So if you do obtain the 5-star summon ticket, consider yourself very lucky. And of course we do have a ton of rewards here, including the event currency. Now of course you will want this event currency for the most part, but if you do get lucky, hopefully you do manage to obtain the 5-star summon ticket, as it's a nice surprise once in a while. You can check the rates for each stage, so do feel free to click here on the question mark after clearing the specific stage, so you can check out the rates of each reward. So something to just keep in mind when farming. Of course the rates are very low for the summon tickets, but for the most part you just want the event currency. Alright, so let's do check out our card flips and see what we do receive. Now I'll just click some random ones here. As you can see, we did manage to obtain the event currency, and as you can see, we do have a upwards orange arrow. Now this does clarify that we do have a boost child on the team, or more than one, so the event's currency was boosted by a certain percentage. Now of course we do have a 120% boost, so that is what it was boosted by. So very nice to have those boost childs on the team, and you will definitely want to have them on the team so you can clear the event efficiently. Alright everyone, so that'll do it for today's Destiny Child video, and of course our narrative dungeon guide here on the channel. Of course, a general guide for all narrative dungeon content featured on Destiny Child Global, as of course I did want to get this guide out here during our narrative dungeon event, as I haven't posted one just yet on the channel, so here it is for you all, and hopefully it does help you newer players out and maybe some of the veteran players that did need some tips on the event. But of course, if you did enjoy today's Destiny Child video, make sure to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't yet done so already, make sure to scroll down and subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying the Destiny Child content, and of course would like to stay tuned for more of it here on the channel. Now with all of that being said, I'll see you all in the next Destiny Child video. As always, thank you all so much for watching.